So, what is wrong with road bike gearing? To further explain the problem and my point on this topic, let me talk you through my mother's bike, okay? So this is basically an endurance machine with Shimano Hydro discs, nice and big 28mm tires, Di2 shifting, a nice carbon frame, size 49, she's not very tall, obviously. Mountain bike pedals, so she can clip in and out easily and walk around a bit. Cadence sensor, no power meter yet, unfortunately. DT wheels, standard issue, endurance bike. You would say it's perfect for someone who just rides for fun, not really for fitness, and will probably never race in her life. But then you get to the gearing, which is stupid, ridiculous. You see, this bike as standard has a compact chainset to it and an 11/28 cassette. Now, this is the gearing I use on my Madone super light, super aerodynamic, really fast bike, which is ideal for racing, criteriums, going fast on downhills, going fast uphills. It's really aerodynamic, really fast bike. I myself find myself quite fit, and I also plan to race on it. So my mother, who in turn does none of these, has the same gearing. He has the gear to go 80k plus downhill at 130-140 cadence. Now, you'll probably agree that my mother is never going to do that, but on the other hand, where I live is quite a flat area where we ride, sometimes together. You will find short but really steep climbs. Now on these climbs I use every one of the cogs on the 11/28 cassette. Sometimes I'm wishing I had a 30 or even 32. Now I'm 60 kilos, around 63 kilos currently on my really aero bike, and I can put out 5, 6, 7 watts per kilo on these short climbs. Now again, my mother does none of that, so she finds really hard to get on top of the climbs using these gears, but the manufacturer specs them anyway. Now the problem comes first from Shimano and the other bike companies. Obviously Shimano is a great company, no problem on that, but they really need to think a bit more about the people who use these bikes. You know, as I said, this bike will never get raced because it's an 8.5 kilo endurance bike, which is probably as aerodynamic as a brick. Not very light either, but it's comfy and cushy and good for long distances, rough roads, for new riders and so on. But still, they put a crit racer's gearing on it. Now I know you might agree that some people use standards or semi-compacts, which I think are both shit for the average user, but that is another topic. So anyway, my mother likes this bike, but she doesn't really get to ride it a lot because... So my mother likes to ride this bike a lot because it's comfortable. I set it up for her, everything is fine, but she can't get her head around the gearing, which I can't either. So what I'm going to do is get off that front derailleur, because for her, she's now ridden too much. Oops. So it's quite confusing, mainly with the Di2 shifters. You know, you have 4 of these small buttons so it's not too easy on her. And I'm going to take these chain rings off, put them away, take this cassette off, put it away, put the road link to the real trailer, 1136 or 40 cassette, and the smallest chainring they make to fit these cranks in a narrow wide format is evolved tooth components 36. Now with the 36 chainring, she'll get basically a 1-to-1 or even lower for the climbs, but she can still top out 54 k's per hour. Yes, 54 k's per hour on a 36 chainring. So if you think you need a 53 or a 55 or a 58 ring to go fast, well, you're basically an idiot. A 36 ring is all well and good for my mother, who will never do 54 k's an hour anyway, and for every average panther out there. But on the other hand, she might. So, to sum it up, 36 front, 11 to 36 or 11 to 40 at the rear, good climbing gear. The top speed is still way off. I think 50 or 50 should be a good compromise, around 32, but no one makes that for this crank. So I'll put it on for her and we'll see what she says. Okay, to further discuss the problems of gearing on road bikes and how shit it is, I brought here these 3 bikes. So the first one, as you may know, is my current road bike, the Trackmeadow 9. This one, well, this is actually my first ever road bike from around 2 years ago. And this is my current TT bike, which you may have already known. As you can see, it has been enjoying its winter rest for a bit, but the things for it should arrive tomorrow, so that will change soon. So anyway, let's start with my first road bike ever. This nice KTM. Nothing fancy, except maybe to raise the IT group. It is now one of my friends' bikes, and the problem starts, as ever, right here. You see, 5236. Now this, I rode this gearing when I was a complete noob. I knew basically nothing about bikes, nothing about gearing, nothing about bike tech, and so on. But it was even worse at the back. You see, now we changed the cassette to an 1128, but the stock one was 1125. So as you might imagine, I struggled quite a bit. Now this, according to the manufacturer, is a race bike, but it really isn't, because you see, tall head tube, comfort, skinny seat post. Okay, skinny shit in my guitars, but anyway. So I got my first bike. I was struggling with the gearing, I didn't know what to do, so I decided to study. But not many people are technically inclined, so they basically struggle for the rest of their lives, because maybe they don't want to lower their ego by putting small chainrings there, or they have some idiot old cyclist friends who are super old school and narrow-minded, and they tell them that only pussies should ride compact or even lower than that. So, this is my first bike. Fast forward 2 years, and here it is, my super fast, super aero, reasonably light Mazone 9. I also got quite a lot fitter and more knowledgeable as well. So what I have on now is a compact. It's Ultragraph for now. My Quark should arrive tomorrow, so I'm gonna change that, but it will be compact anyway, of course. 1128 cassette. Now, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video, it's my mother's bike. I sometimes wish I could go a bit lighter than that, maybe a 30, 32, but I'm going to experiment with it in a couple of weeks, months, in the short future. For now, I usually ride at around 35 to 38 km per hour. I mean average speed for my 2.5 hour loops, which you might think it's quite fast. Well, it's definitely a lot faster than anyone in my area, which is a bit sad because I have no one to train with. But still, I don't find the compact gearing inadequate despite all that, because on the fastest descent in the area I can still hit around 80 km per hour, and I get in a super aero tuck, 130, 140 cadence, when the wind is right, when my clothing is right, when everything is as aero as it can be. But it's, to be honest, it's sketchy as fuck. No one else really does it, and you would be soft in the head to go even faster than that, but you just can't. Even if you had a 60-70 gear at the front, you know, it just doesn't make sense. Today I had luck, or I don't know, I don't really like wind, but I had extreme tailwind on my way back, and I tried a sprint. Out of curiosity, I put it in the 50-11, so a high tailwind sprint on the flat alone. I managed to crank it up to 66 km per hour, and I was nowhere near the end of the gearing. So I think that is a good enough reason to stop experimenting with stupid standard cranks and just go modern, go slow, or not slow, I mean slow gearing, light gearing, fast cadence, to go faster overall. I raced a couple of A-grade crits and climbing races, and there were times where the bunch was moving again with a bit of tailwind on the flat at around 55-60 km per hour, and at no point I felt that my gearing was inadequate or if I was spinning out. Of course, I was dropped once, but I was definitely not dropped because the lack of gearing, it was the lack of watts on the pedals. But that's another thing. For the third part of the gearing problem, let's go to my TT bike. Well, actually, it has no gearing on it just yet, but I want to talk about drivetrain efficiency. As we all know, bigger cocks and bigger sprockets are more efficient than small ones by a couple of %, which is all well and good. That's, for example, why you might see that Tony Martin is using a 58 front chainring and a 32 rear sprocket. But you should also point out that Tony Martin is putting out 500 watts when he's in the 58, and at the speed he's doing, he's in the middle of the cassette, which is well, basically the most efficient gearing possible. Now, if you, as an average guy, put a 58 on the front, and you ride at the middle of the cassette, there's a problem, because at the normal guy's speed you are well below the useful cadence. You're not hitting 80 to 100 cadence for sure, which means you're gaining maybe 4% efficiency in the drivetrain, but your muscles are 8% less efficient. So you've gained minus 76% efficiency. Okay, that's not a real number, but you see the point. You are putting a lot more lactate in your muscles than you could be otherwise. Not to mention the difficulty you would get yourself into when you hit the first climb. So what is the solution? Or well, how can you replicate this prospect? Again, compact cranks, or smaller or larger, depending on your speed. Basically, you have to make sure, if you are really after efficiency, that when you're at the bring ring in the middle of the cassette, then that's the speeds you're traveling in. And in the most cases, when I'm riding on alone, even if quite quickly, then this is the ideal gearing. So you also get maximum muscular efficiency and maximum mechanical efficiency.